Hello, beloveds. Welcome to your full moon lunar eclipse reading. I am Mira, and we'll be diving into all of the energies surrounding this lunar cycle and the greater cycle of the eclipse. So, if you're new to this channel, welcome. All of you is welcome here. And to those of you that are returning, as always, I'm in such deep gratitude and appreciation for each one of you that connect in here with me. And if you enjoy these videos, it's always appreciated to hit the like when it resonates, share it with anyone that you think will benefit from it, and then subscribe if you want more. I do these every week with each lunar cycle. What a time. Like, what a time. And the word that wants to come out is auspicious. Although that, I feel like the definition or our trust and connection with that word auspicious is changing. And that maybe we're starting to calibrate and understand that the opportunities and the wishes and hopes and dreams that we have for our life, that it's often manifesting in the most upheaval and seemingly ungrounded and disordered conduct. When I think of the word auspicious, I think of ease and magic and beautiful opportunities arriving. And I feel in this moment, as this is being communicated, that this is actually about reorienting to the truth of reality, that everything is already existing and it's in a direction of harmony and trying to harmonize and seeing even the challenges with more awareness from the heart. So the moon in Western astrology is going to be in the house of Pisces. And Pisces is the last house in the zodiac. It is the unconscious. It's the dreamy. It's the deep feeling. It's the, way out. It's almost like if you were to see the house more as a spiral, and for Aries to be the center of that spiral, for Pisces to be the furthest out in that cycle. So it's the farthest away from the central point, making it very cosmic and quite ungrounded, abstract and ethereal. So with that, it also can make us delusional and can prevent us from really being fully in the holistic experience. This is also a karmic period because we have the North Node meeting there with the moon at the time of the eclipse, and Saturn not too far away, and Saturn being in its retrograde. So the implications are that this is a karmic time that is about integrating and hard stops on situations, on patterns that we've built our life and our belief systems on, that have been totally unstable and that could be knocked out from underneath us. So this is a hard stop. And I would not be surprised if that's what we feel in the collective, that's what we probably see in the political arena, if we see that economically, if we see that in a societal manner as well as within our internal environment and with our relationships. This is a time of departure from relationships that were built in the old structures and are incompatible to go through that cleaning and that rebuilding process together. So there will be separations, there will be breakups, there will be disconnects. And at the same time, there's going to be arrivals of new partnerships and relationships and foundations, matching foundations that like building a house of cards, that it takes more than one to do that. And so there'll be a joining of resources and efforts at this time. And we always have to remember that in that process, like, how much can we keep our hands open and not grasp, and letting the things and the people go that no longer are a part of that particular cycle, and growing and serving one another in a healthy way, and trusting that that space that once was occupied by the person or the agreement or the energy will soon transition and bring another energy in to take its place, and it will be a better match for where we're going in our own dharmic legacy. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and start to transmit and bring in the highest light of truth for this reading, and may it deliver crisp, clear intention for this particular cycle, for the initiation of this cycle through this full moon in Pisces, and also to elegantly help us to reveal and understand the greater significance of this eclipse portal, bringing to light where we have had our vision veiled from our deeper understanding, and allowing us to access more of our soul vision, more of our soul light, and our deep roots into the integrity and the natural structuring of this earth and the gridding here. And may this be a message that brings about empowerment and clarity and a deep sense of well-being and resourcefulness for each of you. And so be it. So we're going to start to pull the cards. I have several card decks out here today, since it feels very special, like I said, auspicious, as we move into this eclipse, which is on September 7th. And quickly, the nature of an eclipse, when we're looking at this metaphysically, metaphorically, esoterically, the sun represents the light of consciousness. It represents the logos, or the Christ force, the supreme intelligence that ignites the realization of oneness and the awareness of oneness and connectivity. And when that is eclipsed, when that light is eclipsed, then what we're left with is the lack of connection, the lack of memory of that. And what we experience in that lack of memory is our own trauma responses, our own memories, collective memories of what happens when we forget the light of truth, when we forget who we are, the behaviors that come up from the primal fears of our experience of being human, and perhaps even beyond being human. So when we reach a time of eclipse, that's what tends to show up. Is it's an exposure. It's by intensifying the shadow, we then can recognize and see some of the more subtle patternings that have been running behind the scenes in the unconscious. So calling in this view of this collective energy and what's being called in under this Pisces full moon, we have our theme of gentleness. We have a 24 here as well. This comes from the Balinese deck of Divine Humanity. And the 24, that represents a full cycle, 24 hours in a day. And I'm sure you can probably think of where 24 also is a completion number, as that is a part of a 12 cycle. The gentleness, I really feel, is with ourselves and slowing down in our process, slowing down to become really hyper aware of where we may not be so gentle with ourselves, where we might be pushing or rushing ourselves through a process that requires a little bit more nurturing, a little bit more tenderness, a little bit more care and compassion. This card says, gentleness is a universal force that encourages a full openness to life. Storms of existence crash against the shield it raises in the face of difficulties. Without judgment, it supports through its vitality, thus fostering self-esteem through one's personal evolution and respecting one's own pace and unique path. It immerses the soul in a bath of peace and sense of serenity, where flower petals color the smiles offered to the world in gratitude for this unity of the living that it allows us to contact. So that first bit, I feel, really nails what I'm perceiving. It's another way of saying allowing more of the Divine Mother to manifest in your everyday life at the most subtle levels. Says this card pours its blessings onto you, that your gentleness reveals a considerable strength and gently touches your situation, providing the necessary soothing comfort for the best to emerge. It is thanks to gentleness that light introduces essential elements into your experience, thus guiding your path towards your goals. Seems like there is an activation for many people to scribe, if it is part of your nature to write, or you have always felt particularly drawn to some kind of expression in the form of writing or reading, that this might be an activating time for you. And that if that is the case, if part of your life purpose is in communicating in that way, in writing or even reading aloud, transmitting, that's going to be highlighted right now. And maybe what is being asked, that you are recording your experience, and then it could just be that you're recording it, or it could be that you're taking it in, you're processing it, and then you're going to distribute the completed, the distilled form of what your process has meant, and that it has a spiritual base. So if you're receiving this, it's likely that you're getting activated to bring more of the spiritual wisdom and understanding to this time, to help others who may not be able to articulate or to even navigate the challenges and the shifts and the changes with that anchored polarity, or the anchored awareness of the spiritual foundation that is, let's say, the driving force behind it all. It looks like there is also this implication to practice forgiveness. This might be relevant to what's passing away and needing to call on that strength of forgiveness. Forgiveness first to self, forgiveness to other. I'm always about the ho'oponopono. That prayer is so eloquent and beautifully put together, and a fantastic form to go by when we are needing to have a release and confronting what needs to be reconciled in our life with ourselves and with another being. There as long as there exists a duality, a separation, a belief of being hurt by another, there is a requirement for forgiveness. And in that, there can be there cannot be flow without that reconciliation. That channel will impede the consciousness from manifesting in its fullest form in your life. So that is showing up in the field to ask what needs to be reconciled and released and forgiven and understood. The language of the heart is understanding. It is the will to want to understand, and what often precedes that understanding is compassion, and at least humble curiosity, detachment. What can come from that is deep, deep compassion when we do understand and see ourselves in another and understand another one's suffering as our own and have some relatability there. The heart can't help but open and to extend its love for another in whatever they are encountering. We have in our shadow material the elephant. I think of the incredible intelligence of the elephant when I think about that archetype, and I turn straight to the card. It came in upside down, so this is the image upside down. When I think of the elephant archetype, I think of family, I think of strength, but again, I think of gentleness. It says obstacles, strength, majesty, wisdom, and endurance. Ganesh, I've really felt that present for this eclipse of calling in the observant awareness of Ganesh, who is the remover of obstacles in Hindu tradition. However, it's not that they're removed, it's that our vision of it being an obstacle is transformed. It's transformed to see the nature of reality, of universal law as it is, which is always serving harmony, which is not biased and is not subject to the human judgments of right and wrong and good and bad and should and shouldn't. So this speaks more of the strength and wisdom required to tackle roadblocks, especially when they seem heavy or big as an elephant. And that we also must have grace and forgiveness, figuring out how to embody both at once and how to embody them effectively is where wisdom comes from. It's likely that any obstacles you're facing now is frustrating. Maybe the situation has been playing out for some time and you find yourself feeling defeated or discouraged. The elephant also calls for resiliency and endurance. Remember that elephants are often symbols of good luck, and yours may be right around the next corner. The gentle giant. That if an elephant wanted to, it could stomp you, but it chooses not to. It's a choice through softness. So the power of the message is starting to come through and transmit a little bit more. And what I'm just starting to feel the presence here. We have lightning that's showing up that's saying there may be some really strong energy that comes in to put a stop to something that's not wholesome in your experience. And then we also have the Witness here. This is coming in through the Lightning card. And it's coming in reverse. So there are some things that, some patterns that have been building, and there's no more setting it aside or, halfway doing the work on it. There's going to be some pretty prompt and staunch changes. It says that life has gifted you with a destiny that is in alignment with your passion and in harmony with all of existence on earth. Now lightning has come to jolt you into accepting your destiny. Let this initiation release what is in the way of your fulfilling your purpose. Otherwise, you'll be bound to your karmic fate. This is the time to be courageous and daring. What is holding space for that is the place of the Witness. And this card came in one of the streams of intelligence on the first quarter moon, the last reading. And this was about acknowledging your preconceptions and ideas and feelings about the situation you're in and resisting the urge to change any of it. Do not fall back into your controlling patterns. Instead, take a few breaths and connect with the joy of not having to perform. Hold space for the world to keep spinning on its own. Just as I spoke as I was listening to one of my very masterful sisters this morning and witnessing her and how she's encountering this energy. These two cards really illustrate what this eclipse is about. This is about rectifying our relationship with our destiny and our complete devotion to awakening. And as we are aware that that is where our devotion is, that is truly where what we want with all of our heart, what we wish to serve with all of our heart, that we're willing to be really honest and to face whatever has been the problem that has associated us with the old world and its unfavorable, unrealistic, self-centered behavioral patterns and operational measures, seeing where that lives in our own every day-to-day practice, and recognizing how much of that we are projecting onto our reality and slowing ourselves down or pulling ourselves back out of the current that is consistently available for us to flow in. It is the separation of the self that identifies as a doer, the self that identifies as the ego, that is doing for a motivation of something that is self-centered. Even the motivation of safety is a self-centered motivation. This is arising into a supernatural and yet innate part of who we are. This is our creator self. This is the fully awakened self that is humbled, has been humbled in the observance of our own ignorance, and is completely surrendered as the receiver in giving, and through the being, receiving the being that is giving. So that there's not a lot that the mind needs to conjure or needs to try to do, but more of stilling the mind, recognizing the judgments of the mind, holding them in forgiveness, and allowing the heart at its deepest resourceful place to give that love that it's experiencing for itself as it witnesses the dissolving, as it witnesses the suffering of the self. And you can maybe hear in the background, there's like some chattering, some talking in the room behind me. Anything that happens in these spaces when I'm conducting a transmission is a part of the transmission. So what I'm getting from that is, behind closed doors, there will probably be some disturbances and some distractions. And there's a temptation to turn, to open the door, to go find out what it's about. Or maybe there's the shortcut of choosing to stay with the devotional interaction in the present moment of what we are feeling and what we think about what we're feeling, holding that as the witness, reconciling any challenge of forgiving and loving that in its completeness. So much energy moving in this transmission, and just gonna feeling into the strategy. Give us a strategy, Spirit. How can we navigate this? The kangaroo, my beloved friend in Australia, partner of on so many levels, taught me something about the kangaroo when I was investigating the archetypes of the medicine wheel according to Australia's nature. And he told me that the kangaroo can't go backwards. They can only go forward. So immediately that's the first thing that I received from this card. The kangaroo doesn't go backwards. It only goes forwards. And if we're willing to engage with whatever opposition, with resiliency and the will to continue to go forward, then there's a good deal of force behind that. There is, how do I say this? Momentum. There is momentum that's built in every progressive step. It says raw energy, vitality, and optimism. Speaks of the kangaroo being full of energy, and it's often depicted in movies and cartoons in the fighting ring with boxing gloves. The raw energy that courses through the kangaroo fuels its tireless vitality, enabling this animal to spring into or away from action at a moment's notice. When the kangaroo card has sprung into your reading, exciting things are at play. At its core, this card signals a boost in your life force. Perhaps we have recovered from illness or finally feel better after being depressed for a long time. Either way, there is a surge of physical vitality that is renewing of our spirit. So what I get is actually the more that you are willing to ask yourself, really, truly, what is my heart devoted to? And am I showing up every single day reflecting that? Am I actually in integrity with that, or am I just saying that? Am I actioning where I'm putting my words? And when you do that, there will be extra force in your body. There will be extra vitality. You will experience more physical healing and wellness when you are on your dharmic journey. When you are in alignment with your soul, you have an incredible activation of resourcefulness from the soul being. And you become self-luminous, self-propelling. And when I say that, it's of the higher self. It's not the lower self. So this says, embrace the positive energy as much as you can and take action to make the most of it. When you feel ready to spring into action, do it. It also says, though, don't be hasty to act in a way that you go unprepared. But in any case that requires fast and loose plans, be mindful of right action, to seize the moment. Now is the time to recognize the potential that lies both within you and all around you. Raw energy is useless without somewhere to go. So the transmission I feel that's coming in on a cellular level with this eclipse is it's about raw energy. It's about, we've gone through this process with our mind of releasing self-doubt and awakening to our ability, our accountability and responsibility to show up and to actively create the world that we want to live in. And so now we have this raw energy, and how do we harness it? How do we move it? How do we actively become a vessel that is creating with it, co-creating with it? That's what I feel is like the core component in this practice and this being and this life flow that's occurring through the eclipse. So you might just want to take a deep breath and see how this sits in your body, see what resonates, see where you feel it. This is also a good time to check in, and if you want to support this mission, if you want to support me and this channel, hit a like if this does resonate, if I am hitting on things for you that feel crucial and relevant and helpful and enlightening. And then drop in the comments if it's starting to stir up your own vision and understanding for the energy for yourself and for the collective. I welcome you to also bring in, open yourself to those transmissions and to that wisdom, and share it here in the community. And as I start to feel, the question is, what is next? What is next as we progress through that? We have El Haz shows up. The deer, again, a gentle spirit. Divine might foretold. So gaze into this card and allow some of that energy to penetrate the third eye and the face, and to fear the presence of the fear. Any fear that you come into contact with when your own power is met within you. What you will find on the other side of this transit and this eclipse, and that can take time to integrate, is to know what is correct. This is being discernful and embodied in your connection, saying that you understand that any gain which comes from denying your values and compromising yourself creates a loss of soul. There are times when it may seem as though people who act without integrity are obtaining benefit without adverse repercussions. Life can seem unfair if you limit yourself to a strictly human perspective. Yet nothing escapes the attention of the spiritual worlds. Restorative action and balancing fairness is always in action at a higher level, according to divine timing and wisdom. Stay true to your integrity, put your faith in divine justice, and you will win in a way that brings benefit to many. Don't let yourself down with behavior or attitudes that are unworthy of you. Whether in a small matter or apparent insignificance to anyone other than yourself, or in big matters where you feel your soul, and perhaps the souls of others, are on the line, integrity will be your saving grace. So the eclipse axis is Pisces and Virgo, and Virgo is the archetype that most represents integrity in the zodiac. it is about aligned action, and it is about doing what it believes is right. So this card is signifying it's time for you to face any fear that prevents you from being in full ownership of your truth, no matter what kind of opposition that you meet. And not lowering your standards, staying resilient, staying committed, coming back to, again, where is your heart, and are you showing up honestly and integrity in that devotional practice every single day? Asking lastly for Spirit to provide a little bit more support for how we integrate this. So what comes in is to take a break. After you go through this process that might be that lightning bolt, some intensified process, there's going to be a period of time where you're going to be asked to step back from that. When your nervous system starts to get overloaded and you're noticing your mind and your heart are not in fluid communication anymore, it's time to step back and take a break from it. These are going to be intense energies. And that doesn't mean bad. It just means that it's intense. So when we do high intensity workouts, generally we need to take a break sooner. But then we may re-engage with it. So the idea is that you want to hold all of this. You want to be gentle. Again, that's the primary invitation, is to be really gentle. So that means if you find yourself really at your edge and you can't take any more, but your mind's telling you you've got to get all these other things done, and you push yourself to do that, that's not really being gentle with yourself. You need to investigate and be honest with if you're too hard on yourself, if you're not giving yourself enough space, and if it's now a requirement for you to have like a mandatory rest. And for those of you that it does resonate about having purpose in writing, that might be a part of taking the break. I don't know, writing might be a part of the active process for you. Looking at this whole reading, I can feel that it's almost like pulling a bunch of strings all together to now put it in the loom and start weaving one tapestry. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like like a field of coherence, and that it will come through very strong, intense, direct encounters, opportunities. It's almost like I see like a stringed instrument. You know, a string it's very defined, it's very small, but when you activate that string, the reverberation can be really intense, it can be really loud, it can be really far traveling. So we want to be gentle as we're navigating all of those strings, all of the different particular experiences. How gentle can we be with playing with them? And notice I'm using the word playing. That's like that auspicious energy again, of instead of seeing it as something that is against us and that's, you know, a bad thing, shouldn't happen. We're choosing to play with the opposition, to play with the adversity, and to play with it gently. That's what I have for you with this reading. I hope that you receive it with so much grace and that it's helpful in navigating this time, and it holds a pillar for you to return to and to keep remembering yourself, as during eclipses we can tend to become scattered and very distracted and parted out and need something to come back to. So please, I welcome you to use this transmission to come back to yourself and remember what is true for you and where your intention is and where you're going. So until we meet again next week, stay pure, keep it simple. Pura vida.